There is something incredibly humbling and somewhat indescribable about witnessing a band's first faltering steps onto the world stage. There's no real expectations, no weight of their own history, just the band, their music, and their message. Now, this debut offering from British post-metal band Dimscûa might very well be one of the single strongest opening statements I've heard from any band ever. Guys, gals, and non-binary pals, my name is Ian, this is Rhyme Signatures, and we are once again opening the lid on the best new releases in prog rock and metal. You know me well enough by now, I don't generally bother reviewing EPs. 9 times out of 10 there's just not enough going on to be able to hold my interest, or it's a weird experiment from the band that either doesn't work that well, or it needs the subsequent album to make sense. There's a reason I've not covered the new Crownlands EP on the channel, for example, as it kind of falls into that latter category. It really needs the upcoming LP in order for the EP to make complete sense. Now, I know I briefly covered the Deer Hunter's new EP in a previous video, but frankly, Casey Crescenzo could release an hour-long experimental album of him just slowly muttering the word sausages into a vintage microphone, and I'd probably still want to talk about it. But as a typical rule, I only talk about full-length albums in these reviews. Thank God then for Dimscûa, for upsetting the apple cart enough to convince me to talk about this one on the channel, because this is some of the most dramatic, engaging and emotional 32 minutes of music released this year, and to miss out on talking about it on the technicality of it just being an EP would have been a grave and heinous error on my part. I mean, imagine if I had merely dismissed Parallax Hypersleep Dialogues by Between the Buried and Me, or A Change of Seasons by Dream Theater. Some bands have got their best music hidden inside otherwise understated EPs, and Dust Eater is about to join the pantheon of the most exciting and significant EPs in recent years. So if you're looking to understand a little bit more as to what Dimscûa are about, if you're at all familiar with bands like Cult of Luna, Wolves in the Throne Room, etc., then this is most assuredly singing from the same hymn sheet. Now, it's not quite so relentless as Cult of Luna, lacking in the overall punishing form factor that they so often take, but it trades it out for a much weightier payload in terms of sheer emotional force. The lyricism is a tough listen once you learn the background and history of the recording and what brought these songs to life. Now, out of respect for the band, I will not shine a spotlight anymore on what is already clearly difficult subject matter, but if you want to know more, then a quick Google search will yield results for you. What makes this debut offering work so well is how inescapably honest and raw it feels. With the opening track of Elder Ben, with Alexander Rowland's absolutely astonishing vocal delivery, it is captivating in ways I can barely describe. When his earthy and guttural, throaty rumbles erupt into ear-piercing shrieks, it completely takes my breath away. The pain, the sorrow, and agony that feels woven into the fabric of the music is inescapable. Now, of course, that's not to besmirch the rest of the band's creative efforts, of course. The tonality of the guitars and atmospheres created by the thumping drums and earth-shaking bass cannot be ignored. However, there's something different in the impact of the overall experience here than what I'm generally used to with this kind of discordant post-metal. There's a sense to the music that the sheer weight of the pain behind the meaning of it all is threatening to wash over you at any given moment. It kind of always hangs between the point of holding on and letting oblivion drown you completely. It's a kind of darkness that moves beyond, ooh, look at these big scary minor chords, and feels more personal, more impactful, and ultimately far more human. The music here isn't trying to be grand or sweeping in its scope or scale. It's smaller, it's concentrated, and it's focused, bringing to bear a kind of weight that's granular. It's condensed, and it's, in the best possible way, absolutely terrifying. There's been a lot of conversation these days, especially with the introduction of generative AI into things, about music and artistry losing its humanity, about becoming too clean, clinical, and lacking in the emotive depth that true art deserves. The focus being on creating a consumer product rather than a statement of artistic intent. Dimscûa have raised an enormous middle finger to anyone who believes that true art in music is dying out. Dust Eater is a proclamation of art, a project born from pain, from agony, and from the most devastating of human emotions to create something that feels cathartic and necessary. The music's biggest strength and most unique identity is when it allows itself the chance to just breathe, to give itself time away from the crushing riffs and thunderous drums. Take the opening 3 minutes or so of the final track on being and nothingness. It's a gentle, almost soothing passage, helping you to feel grounded again after the preceding tracks have kind of thrown you around for about 22 minutes of emotional turmoil. But then we're back into the maelstrom. The weight, the mental scarring, the raw honesty and fear. It all comes rushing back to remind us that sometimes in life, you're not going to be okay. There's going to be times when everything will overwhelm you, when it doesn't feel like there's an exit. But there always is. There's always a way forward. And no matter how dark, how crushing, and how choking this music gets, there's a glimmer of hope accenting against it all. And that is why Dust Eater works. That is why it has affected me in such a profound way. It has helped me to look inwards to my own pain, to my own demons, and find a way forward. Good music should challenge you, make you reflect on not only what the compositions mean in the context of the album, but also how they reflect on you. While I cannot claim to fully understand the pain that brought this music to life, I can still speak of how it has impacted me. How the moods and the atmospheres on this EP have held up a mirror in front of me as I've listened to it and shown me a reflection of myself in the emotional output. It is hard to look at and hard to face the pain that lies underneath the surface, but in a way, Dimscûa, with their raw display of human emotions, have helped me with my own problems by wearing theirs so openly. So, what else can I possibly say about Dimscûa's Dust Eater? It takes a lot for a debut to knock me on my ass as hard as this one has done, especially when we're only talking about a brief 32 minutes of music. But the boys from Berkshire have distilled their troubles into a gut punch of riffs, soundscapes, and pure emotional expressionism. This is music that's best listened to in a dark room, good pair of headphones, and the world shoved to one side for half an hour or so. You'll want to experience this distraction-free and be prepared for tears, as the unrelenting honesty on Dust Eater can be a very hard pill to swallow. Now, this is only available digitally for now from their Bandcamp, a link to which will be in the video description below, and it's absolutely worth your time and money. Hug your loved ones, remind them you care. Call a friend you haven't spoken to in a while, reach out, connect, and treasure what you have. This is all, of course, guys, just my opinion, so if you love this one, if you hated this one, please talk to me about your experiences of the album in the comments down below. Please do drop me a thumbs up if you like the video, please do tell your friends about little old me, and please do consider subscribing to the channel if you've been enjoying my content so far. But until next time, guys, as always, keep your rhyme signatures pretty odd.